Hey, what's up, and welcome to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BigExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate. Let me make sure I turn off all cellular devices before they start going on. But I'm here live from the shaky boudoir, my bedroom. Um, uh, I've been trying to find other meeting spaces, but I'm home. Why not? Let's just get it in. But my special guest for the day is Mr. Femi the Dry Fish. Uh, I reached out to him because him and David, um, have an awesome new project coming out. Well, it's already out. It's on all streaming networks, and I've been listening to it today, and I really like it. It seems your guys got a little personal. But how you doing today, Mr. Femi?
I'm good. I'm good. You know what's funny? I thought you were outside because of the brick wall behind you. So I thought you was
Uh-uh.
like on the patio or something like that. You know, just kind of
Uh-uh,
kicking it.
About that's just the light. I fixed the light. But no, I'm at home, and I've been following directions. I only venture out. I'm blessed to be across the street from a market and a CVS. That's all I need in
Yeah,
quarantine. So I run out once a week and run right back in. So I've been doing my due diligence and following directions. Have you,
that's good to
sir?
hear. Have I been found directions? I've been sensible, and my
Okay.
interactions with people is minor. But
Okay.
I in this day and time, my income comes through my activities,
Yes.
and
Yes.
everything I record, all my shows got dropped, all my workshops got dropped. So that
Mm-hmm.
means nothing's coming in. But I happen to have a pickup truck. And
Ooh.
so while people have been sitting home collecting dust, they've been cleaning out.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I get quite a few calls a week to come through, and I just ask them to leave the stuff outside, and I just come and grab it, put it on my truck, take it to the dump.
Okay.
So that's been one way to make money. And then I've been working with young audience, passing out arts and craft activities called
Mhm.
Art Snacks.
Cool.
And that's I go to the location of any school that hands out lunches
Okay.
to those who need lunches, I guess school lunches. And
Okay.
while they when they pass out the food, I also give them the arts craft snack.
A little baby Uber Eats. Okay, I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. I got you. And that's been really tough because for me as an artist like you, I know you teach in schools and such and perform. It's been the first week was easy because it was like, oh, okay, this is a vacation, and reality set in the second week, and like, okay, ain't no invoices going out this week.
Right, right,
What
right.
we about to get into. And then I went into maybe like that third week where it was like, I don't know if this will work because we still out. And then I've kind of found my creative niche
Hmm.
and trying to produce virtual events. And honestly, I don't really feel like I want to be on the stage anymore. I think virtual
Wow.
is the way to go.
I cannot do virtual.
Yeah.
I had the it's weird. I like being on stage, but I hate being in a recording booth. I
Yes.
also don't like a
Yes.
camera on me. I need an
Right.
audience. I need a live audience to feed off of emotionally.
Yeah. As a theater actor, I completely understand, but I'm getting a certain level of comfort because I don't, despite me doing an online radio show, I don't do a bunch of lives. Like I have to be really passionate or pissed off at somebody for me to get on a live and say something. But
Right.
and that's only after I've learned the lesson. But this whole it feels very intrusive. I don't even invite people to my home, so the fact that I'm in my bedroom doing a radio show is weird but kind of fascinating at the same time. But so in terms of you figuring it out, in terms of your new norm right now, do you think this is going to last any longer, or how have you been able to cope with it mentally as an artist?
um, you know what? I think the way I cope with life, I kind of do this thing where I say someone is always going through worse.
Right, right.
And I feel like that's been my coping mechanisms for probably the majority of my life. So, not saying I don't complain, but I kind of look at it like it could be worse. I'm an artist. I can imagine the worst scenario, you
Yes,
know. And because I can imagine worst scenario, and this is something that it's really, I mean, I will admit it's definitely intrusive on all lives. Like this is something the whole world has experienced at one time, you
Right.
know. And then there are people losing their lives. So I'm not, I recognize that it's definitely a situation that is deadly, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things I keep saying to myself is, this is something we can overcome if we maintain being sensible. Mind you, I don't think a lot of us are being sensible. I won't say a lot of us. There are chosen pockets of people
Hmm.
who are eager to get back to normality, that
Right.
they're willing to risk all of us for their normality that will
Right.
never come if things happen the way they want to happen.
Yeah, I keep thinking that too. Like we were talking before we went live about just a simple haircut. Like I feel so different not having to like wrap it up or kind of disguise the fact that it's growing in and this uneven. But I I would not imagine going to the barber shop.
Mm.
Now I did pay my barber like, hey, when the first door opens up officially, I want to be first. I'm gonna pay you now. But
Are you sure you're the only person who paid him for that?
well, I would fight. Like I would fight. So whatever my first day is, that's the first day. So whatever he been doing before that. But I trust my barber. He real like I'ma clean this. He cleans everything every between every person. So I trust him. But even with that, I couldn't imagine right now risking my life so I could be fresh indoors. I couldn't
Right, right,
imagine
right.
risking my life because I just want to get out and spend money or do something because I'm feeling antsy. I walk around the block before I risk my life, or I mean, I live alone, so I'm not really risking my family's life at this moment. But I couldn't. It's not that serious.
So let me ask a question then,
Okay.
because you live alone. What is that like? A lot of solitude. How are you? Because and mind you, even if you are an antisocial person,
Yes.
this definitely is a scenario of overkill.
It is. It is because you waiting for that moment because you know how we have those days where you like, man, the world is on pause, and then you can get up and make a decision. You're like, you know what? But I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go
Hmm.
out into the world, and then you like, ain't nothing to do out in the world, so you gonna sit your ass back down. But I'm not. I wouldn't say antisocial, but I'm a introvert extrovert. If that makes any sense.
I
I'm a
understand.
theater actor, so I love being on stage. I love doing my radio show and meeting new people. But I find a comfort being off to the corner, chilling, being observant. But it really is. I've learned how to communicate more. I'm not a telephone person. I'm not a FaceTime person, but it's forced me to be that just so I can kind of cut into the dead space that is
Mm.
now life. Life has become a big dead space if you are single and you're staying by yourself in this moment. But I've figured out ways to do that. So or get back out there
I can
without
dig it. I can
it.
dig it.
Are you ready for what? Are you ready for this to be a norm? Because some of the inside professionals that I know say our norm won't get back to a quote unquote normal until about October. Would you be able to last that long?
Yeah, I'm not like because I tell myself it could be worse. This is not
Right.
the worst it could be. You know, we
Yeah.
remember we spoke a little. We spoke I think yesterday, and I was like,
Mhm.
if this was Ebola, this a whole different ball game. If
Right. Right. Right.
Ebola was spreading around the world at this speed, this
Yes.
easy, this would be a whole
Uh-huh.
different ball game. You know, like, and like I said, this is also just as this is deadly also, but
Right.
sensibility can squash this. And real in reality, we were never concerned about the flu. And the flu also was just, worked in a very similar manner
But that still
where
was a means. There was still a kind of a safety net. Like if you got the vaccine, you would be exposed to it, but it would kind of protect you from the deadly side of it. Or if you did certain things, this feels like if you go outside and touch somebody, that's it. Like it feels just that random,
it's I think it's exaggerated
right?
if in that manner because we never thought about whenever you catch a cold or whenever you get the flu, how you get it. you get it the same way,
Right.
the
Right.
exact same way. You
Exact same
know,
way. Right.
the exact same way. And the new normal will be more cleanliness will be heightened. We'll be washing hands definitely more, using hand sanitizer definitely more, not touching too close, not being in each other's faces too close. When
Right.
somebody sneezes and they don't cover their face, vampire style, we gonna look at them crazy.
Right.
We gonna look
Right.
at them crazy like, yo, for real? You're not gonna vampire that joint, and they might catch a bad one.
But I think the world now sees what it feels like to be a teacher in the classroom because
Mm,
this has been like the flu season has been like deadly for us for years,
yes.
and that's something that I always like. If I see a child digging in the nose, go wash your hands, like instantly. And I don't want the world to be like that. And I try not to be that way around children, but we've gotten to that point. Like a man coughed in CVS the other day, and you would have thought like somebody was robbing the place. But I just don't want us to get to that level where we're so insensitive, we're so disrespectful of other people, and everybody's at distance. And that's I wanted people to change the phrase from social distancing to this physical distancing because I think the mentality of being
Mm.
socially distant from somebody, whereas we have means to still communicate, we just can't physically be in each other's immediate space anymore. It's kind of damaging us because we're already starting to separate ourselves, and then some people feel this need to like be there. I'm looking at that party up in Chicago and all the different events that are still going on. Like people, the cities that are opening up, people going right back to church or right back to the nail salon, and I'm like, you don't, you don't
What?
watch the news, do
No,
you?
no, and to them, it's not real. It's not real because somebody directly hasn't been affected.
Right. And that's what it was in the beginning. And like in the last couple of weeks, I've had, my godmother's husband, father passed away, and a friend who's a nurse just sent out to a bunch of us, his friends, that he has tested positive for COVID-19. And it's scary because you don't know what it is, and he says he doesn't have any symptoms or any uh, feelings right now in terms of being sick. He just,
Mm.
he had a fever and that was it. And they got
Wow.
him tested, and that's how he found out. And it just is strange. But as an artist, I'm finding it difficult to find our normal means of work, but it's making me feel more creative in terms of what can I do. We're used to doing things with what we have, so now what can I do? So was this album in the makings before, or did y'all kind of like let's do something right now?
Oh, no, 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 no. It takes even the 5 songs. It's 5 songs.
Mhm.
Normally any album prior to this album, Dave and I had 3 albums prior to this.
Okay.
This is
Right.
this our 4th album. Every album's taken us about a year to do. These
Mm.
5 songs took us from August of last year till we finished recording in January. I want to say late
Okay.
January. We finished recording and got it mixed down, and then we were really trying to figure out when to make the move because our strength has always been we put on a show,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
that's how we released the album. And I will be honest with you, I work. I mean, like I'm online. I'm online to goof around. I'm online to interact a
Mhm.
certain way, but I haven't strongly transitioned into being
Yes.
great at the marketing aspect
Yes.
of what online is. I haven't there's a science to it, there's a code to it. I haven't broken the code. When I say I do all right on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 3 or 4. I know
Well,
how
you
to,
might be a little bit higher because you have physical social capital out there that you just had to translate into the online
well,
world.
well, I look at it like this. I have been performing since professionally probably since 2001.
Mhm.
And there's been times I've done shows where me and David have thrown shows. One time we did an album release at Center Stage, and we packed out the entire first floor, which is like 400 plus people.
I think
You
that was
know,
the first time. I think that was your second album.
yes, second album, Water Margin,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was when I first saw you two perform together.
right. So we packed that place out, And then we've traveled all over the country doing shows, conferences, festivals, college tours, and you have all these people you've performed in front of. So many
Mhm.
people. And, if I give an estimate on a personal level, maybe like 15, 20,000 people we've interacted in the course of our time.
Right.
And then you put out an album and you have to fight to move 100 units. You have to fight to
Mhm.
move 200 units. You have to
Mhm.
fight to move 5 units,
Right.
where you think that you put the album out and you automatically move 5,000 off just off the break,
Right.
and that's not what it is.
And it's weird because even in this crisis, the the online or digital marketing has changed again because now you don't need a 2 3 month build up. You just need
Right,
to split 2 weeks now, and even within those 2 weeks, you still gotta make it something spectacular. You got to have a story. People like Beyonce messing up the world because now we got to do all this shit. I got to make a mini movie for every single song, and people start expecting that even from artists that aren't on that caliber. They start expecting that from the artists that they can see and touch now, and it feels unrealistic and it's obtainable, but it's still like, what can we do?
right.
What was the decision in releasing it now opposed to holding it a little bit longer?
I didn't want to hold. I didn't want us to hold it longer. I think David and I talked about it. David was really big on that conversation about moving the product online.
Hmm.
Like his lifestyle is very different from mine, and I think he was trying to figure out how do you master the art of moving the product online.
Right.
And my thing was, yeah, we can do that, but let's not forget that our strongest asset is when we throw an elaborate show, because we're good at throwing some kind of elaborate presentation
Right.
that is not of the norm of our circle of friends or circle of artists when they put out a record,
Hmm.
you know. So more so, David got his wish based off of what has happened. um,
I mean, but it's
so
still possible now because we've seen DJ Nice break the internet. There's a talk of Erica Badu and Jill Scott about to do something,
mm,
and that old man attempt from Babyface and I can't remember the other guy's name.
oh, you
Um,
talk about Teddy Riley and
Yeah,
Babyface.
Kelly Riley. So there's possibility in it, and it may shape shift what you all are used to into something totally different.
I I,
And
I agree. I've thrown that on the table, so hopefully we're able to have that conversation probably
hmm
this weekend, and
right,
try to plan out what does that look like if we do just a live show, on Facebook, on Instagram, and just figure out how to make that work and make it functional and fun, and look at other people that have done it and make sure we troubleshoot where they had trouble.
right, right. And that's the hard part because a lot of software that was kind of like is starting to be used right now, and it wasn't intended for all of these people, and then as elaborate as we are as artists. So we want people flying in and sound effects, and it doesn't. It's hard to even talk without a headset anymore right now. With it, but I think the possibility is endless, and I have found kind of a means to continue the creative energy, and it's actually made me like want to continue this even once outside is normal or close to normal again. But it's internet is scary for me as an artist because I'm used to the manual information. Hey, what's up, E Digger? Ernest
I
says,
see. I see Ernest.
but in terms of just the content, this one, all the albums, I was introduced to you guys as somebody I knew on the second album, and this one felt a little bit more personal. And I'll talk to you because you're the one that's actually here. I remember us doing kind of a round table with guys with Tracy Jiggets like a year or so ago,
I
and I
remember that.
remember bits and pieces of your story kind of coming out in that round table, and then to hear it on the album, it was refreshing to see you kind of take that to another level. And I just don't remember you all being so not honest, but open about your personal selves uh,
I, I,
in what you've done before.
I think that I think David is more transparent
Hmm.
in his artistry than I am in that aspect. I'm probably more coded.
Right,
So if
right,
you know me, you hear it. So this was
yeah,
probably one of the scenarios where I was being more blatant
right.
in my language, especially the song that you're talking about.
I
Uh,
think that's number two. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think it was number three, Sins of the
Okay.
Father.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sorry. Number two is my favorite, only because it included August Wilson. So go ahead. Go ahead.
um, but I think that a lot of my work is personal. I just the art of writing is about the art. For me, it's the art of being coded, and
Mm,
then the art of writing and code, and then hoping people appreciate the language, and
right,
then they can decipher it and interpret it for themselves, or try to figure out where I was trying to go with it. And
right.
that's how I enjoy writing. David does it too, but I just feel like he has a David's always been better. He's a he's better communicator as an artist, and then I'm a better communicator outside of my art.
Right.
um,
I think that's his theater side, probably being able to.
and there you have it. David's definitely is a theater actor also.
Is it? But this album felt less as if you are like I always see the two of you as these like owls, this looking out over the world and taking observation and then bringing it back to your art. This one felt like you two were kind of looking in the mirror more, and it felt for me it just felt personal. I don't know you all on a personal level outside of us being artists and working together before, but outside of that, I've just never, in terms of me listening to your music, it just never, it feels more like you all are looking at yourselves versus being as observant about outside of you or creating. Was that conscious or was that just what
Um,
y'all brought together?
well, the album, the theme of the album was black. I mean, the title is called Black Body, and the theme
Hmm.
is kind of like a double. It's a double thing is happening here. One is that the burden of the person with melanin, the
Okay.
burden, and not the burden is not just what's placed on us, but what we place on ourselves.
Okay.
You know. And then the other meaning, because David actually titled the album, there's a cluster of stars called a black body, and they absorb light. And the connection is that we're absorbing the burden of being here. You know, we're absorbing. Even when you think about America, some of the things that we wrote for the album are tied to actual events of just being a black person in America. I would say a
Hmm.
black man because we're both men. You know,
Right.
just the burden of how we're seen and how it's assumed just by looking at us. You can just assume that we're wrong to be here. It's wrong for us to be here, you know. And
Hmm.
one of the best one of the examples I had, um, it was I think it was a Trayvon Martin situation. You know, this is like a you know, and there's so many examples of this, but Trayvon Martin is like one of the best examples for me was that when he was killed, um, the first thing they did, the media did. I don't know who the media is. When I say media, powers the
Hmm.
be, whatever.
Right.
When they found out that he lived in that neighborhood, the next thing that happened was that there was a picture of him smoking weed that became
Yeah.
a thing, you
Yeah.
know. And so it's like right off the break, there was a movement to demonize him because oh snap,
Hmm.
we killed a kid and he ain't got no criminal record. We killed a
Right.
kid, like this Zimmerman guy kills this boy, and they needed a reason for him, for Zimmerman to be right off
Yeah.
the break, and that happens a lot where the minute someone is a man, a man of color is an unarmed man of color is killed, the
Right.
minute he's killed, they're looking for a reason to justify it because he was unarmed. So if he's seen like, oh yeah, he got locked up in '86, so he must be a
Right.
bad person. Oh, he's
Right.
sorry.
You
Um,
good?
he must be a bad person.
Hmm.
And I say that because both Dave and I are raised. We both have children, and we both have young men. We both
Right.
have males that
Right.
we have to like with my own son. My constant thing with him is making him aware of what might happen. That it might happen, it might not happen. But I got to prepare him for things that might happen in in
Right.
in in this in this environment. You know, so
And that's not a thing in other cultures. Being going to predominantly white schools my whole life, that wasn't a thing. They got warned on how to cross the street and how maybe to be respectful to adults, but we are being bombarded by not only our environment but the people in our environment, and it.
it's
I
it's
don't
a
I don't know how you would raise a child today.
and you got to constantly tell the child different combinations of the same scenario of how to possibly respond. Like to various things that can happen in one scenario, and
But
there's
how do
tons
you,
of
as a
scenarios.
parent, still still give all those scenarios by still telling your child they're worthy, and still instill in them kind of good qualities. So, because you're basically warning them that they're being sought out as an animal or this creature versus they just being children. That's you just warning about their environment. How do you still balance that to a young male? And
So,
still validate their person.
so this is where that song comes into play.
Hmm.
My relationship with my father was really poor, and I met my father at the age of 13,
Okay.
basically, and that's why I moved here to the United States to live with him. You know, and some of the things I'm trying to make up for in my son are the things that I'm like, Dad, my father could have done a better job of trying to build my character. And
Hmm.
my dad met me, and as a Nigerian man, he met me, and he had these demands, but demands as if I was raised by him, but I
Hmm.
wasn't raised by him.
Like
And
you should have known this already.
he didn't make any adjustments. Like, okay, this guy hasn't. I haven't been in this guy's life. So let me bring him up to speed, or even just living in America. My dad never sat me down like, okay, we're living in America. This is how it is in the streets. I lived in the village. I went to an all black school. I went to an
Hmm.
all black neighborhood, and it's on the song. I went to all black. I live in an all black neighborhood. I went to all black school, and I wasn't allowed to have black friends.
Yeah.
But those are things that like, and then in addition to that, it was like this constant tearing you down. So in my father's eyes, I could do nothing right. And
Hmm.
so I grew up with this insecurity that I was worthless because
Yeah.
what I wanted to be good at wasn't acceptable. Like the whole art thing, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to draw. I wanted to do comic books. That's what I wanted to do. And in
Hmm.
my household, that was forbidden. Because as a Nigerian man, you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer at the end. Like they don't want you to do anything else. But
Right.
that wasn't my drive, and I was just constantly. It was a constant. I was constantly told I wasn't worth. I was of no worth. You know,
Hmm.
and with my son in the mix of me even trying to like troubleshoot this reality that we live in because I don't want to get. I don't. It's where I'm trying to make sure he doesn't get caught off guard.
Hmm.
That's really what it is. Like because my son's not living the hood life. You know,
Right.
my son's not in the streets. Stuff like that. So he'll be more naive to things that I'm more aware of.
Right.
From my experiences, I become what my experiences happened at post 18 when I left home.
Right.
But my son, was catching the bus by the fourth grade by himself. He was coming home by himself. Had a key, and even just simple, and I'm not sure if you were ever one of those kids that came home
Hmm.
with had a key
Let.
around your neck.
Yep.
There's all these things you're told. But
Hmm.
at the fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, if he's walking home at any point in time, a police officer could pull him over and be like,
Right.
yo, let me search your bag. You
Yeah.
know. And
Yep.
even that, I had to school him on the Bill of Rights to let him know
Right.
that a cop can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
A cop can't question you without an adult present. Like this stuff I had to like drill in him And then he's like, what if the cop does this? I'm like, yo, you the there was a time there was a TV show about the four brothers that were locked up in New York.
Okay, yeah, 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 yeah.
When they see us, and I remember I made him and my nephews all watch it. And
Mm,
my argument with them was, check this out. This is what I'm about to tell you is horrible. If you were ever brought to a police station and the cops are asking you questions, you say nothing.
yeah,
You let them know about your Fifth Amendment right, and you let them know that you're a minor and you cannot say anything without a parent present. Not even a lawyer, a parent
apparent.
present, because they'll bring in some lawyer from their side of the fence. No,
Right.
your parent present. And I had to tell them this: they might rough you up,
Yeah.
they might starve you, they might not let you use the bathroom. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? They might get physical with you to definitely get you to say whatever they want you to say. And I was like, yo, even in the mix of all that, say nothing. Say nothing. That means by the time I show up there, you'll probably have a bloody nose and a black eye, a busted lip,
mm,
maybe a broken body part.
right.
And I hate to say something like that because the
It's the
worst thing
reality.
that's the reality that you have to deal with. That they will find a way to open and shut the case just because of your skin color.
But how do you? So back in the day, there was a lot of lynchings, and we kind of knew what was going on, and then there was an Emmett Till. But in today's world, it is blatant. It's not even done in the cover of night. It's done on a camera phone. This is on this right here, and they seeing it, my mind is stuck on Philando Castile. I
Mm,
For some reason I can't let that go. I've taught it in my classes as a writing prompt, and it I can't let it go because that was one of the first times where we saw it happen. Like we
right.
saw it happen and nothing was done about it. So how do we specifically to our young black children? I can't even say boys anymore, but our
Nah,
brothers and
everybody
sisters.
get it now.
But how do we justify that? How do we continue to uplift them and make positive young men out of people who are seeing that they don't have a say if somebody chooses it out that doesn't look like them? How do we still instill in them those things?
I mean, it's a constant. I mean, it's a constant. You have to let them know they're valued.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
in a world that might not value them, that
Right.
you don't need that permission. You don't need the world's permission to be valued. You know,
Mm.
and I feel like that is one of the downsides. And I say this, I'm about to say it as a foreigner, as someone
Right.
who was born in another country and has lived in two other countries before moving to the United States.
Right.
That the one thing I see is that and you know, some people, I mean, some people would agree with me that we're constantly, as a race of people, we're constantly looking for validation from the other side of the fence. But we're constantly looking for value from those who don't value us, who have never valued us. And I say this as not like I said, I have individual white friends that are awesome,
Right.
you know, that I love to death. But I'm just saying how this country was constructed with
Mhm.
the with the black person in the midst of it. They
Right.
they were trained. They were trained. Like even when you think about slavery, you know, we're going all so far back. Only rich people could afford to have slaves.
Mm.
But you know, and the worst thing about that, they found a way to make poor white people treat slaves like they were
Right.
less than. To
Mhm.
it, not realizing that the poor white people, the slaves they brought for free labor, were doing the jobs the poor white people could have been doing to earn a living.
Oh, okay.
You know, but instead they manipulated them, just like the last presidential election where they were
Right.
manipulated. Also, you know, I think it's so clever the way the manipulation is done, but it breeded a culture of, oh yeah, those people of color, people that are black, are less than us.
So how do we get ourselves? And I see this in our art world a lot because we want our work to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be on those larger platforms. So we begin to sell ourselves off to those non-black or those platforms with people that just want us for our content and not our body, not our person. How do we get ourselves out of that system of trying to appease them and drop the black from our artistry and cater to what is the standard way of being an artist? How do we get break that cycle or get ourselves out of it?
I don't know how
Yeah.
how. I don't know. I feel like I'm in a weird space artistically as far as
Hmm.
how I move my music. I have a rock band that I perform with, and give even the content of my rock, the content of my music is definitely for people that look like me, and really it's for people in general, you know,
Right.
because the more conversation I'm able to have with other folks that don't have the same skin tone as I do, if I'm able to have that conversation and give them awareness, I feel that I've done a job here where, hey, they listen to my music, they become more aware that things are not balanced in the force, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and a lot of situations where you can be white in America and never have to engage a black person other than when you're watching stuff on television. You never have to socially engage them, so you don't
Right.
have to. So your judgment is based off of very little to no interaction, and we
Right.
live here. We live here in the United States. To me, like unless we split the country in half or in a quarter or we get a portion of America, we have to engage. And our job as the artist is to paint these pictures not just for ourselves, but for other people too, and hopefully to bridge gaps.
Mm.
And
It just feels. It feels. I'm at a part in my artistry now. I've stepped out of the black way of doing things, or just being in a black group, and I'm working with other people, trying to diversify because I want to expand my audience as well. So I'm
mhm,
sitting at tables with other cultures, having conversations about my work where I'm not a part of the conversation until it's time for me to collect my stipend or when they need to bring the audience in. And it for a couple years it angered me because I'm like, you don't even see me. It's just you're not even coming to see my show. You want me to bring my stuff to you.
that,
And
that is, but that's always been the
right.
way their market worked. Think about the Jackie Robinson situation. The
Hmm.
Negro leagues were doing with I wouldn't say they were doing on the level of the base the regular baseball thing, but they were earning a living. With the
Right.
Negro leagues were earning a living, and they didn't see us. They saw the potential of money they could make,
Including us. Yeah.
including us. So they didn't even have to respect us, but it's like, hey, we can get those dollars. And the minute that happened, what happened, what shouldn't have happened, what happened was we bought in. The minute Jackie Robinson walked in, then we all wanted to walk in. But the
Right.
problem was
Right.
what happened to the Negro League right then and there? It
Yes.
folded.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and that and there's so many stories that are tied to that where the minute we're allowed into their space, we abandon our own. When real in reality, we should strengthen our own even while we're in their space. And we're not, and historically we have not done that.
We
We have
let
not
our stuff kind of go off
because
to the wayside.
we have not valued our own.
Mm,
We've just been waiting to be accepted by them so we can abandon our own. I mean, and I say that as in the like I said, the Negro leads. Even if you think about, I was thinking about Killer Mike was talking about the minute we were allowed in different neighborhoods or allowed to have certain jobs. People don't own, when black people own corner stores, they just gave it up. You know, certain neighborhoods, no one passed the house down to the family members. They sell the house.
right,
Like
right, right.
where the minute we were allowed access to the white dollar spinning, we abandoned the black dollar spinning, and that became and I would say that not even consciously, because once again, the whole idea of colonization, the whole idea of slavery is all tied to conquest. But there's such a mental aspect to that we haven't
Right.
worked our way out of, and not just here in America. Like I'm Nigerian, you
Mhm.
know, even in Nigeria, they still see white people as the greater thing, the greater entity.
what to kind of work towards becoming versus building
Exactly.
your own culture and
Exactly.
understanding that we are what is we are the commodity. So we shouldn't be trying to reach over the line. We should just stand tall. And as an artist, I'm really just torn because I want my work to be seen with from a greater audience. But I'm torn between quote unquote feeling like I'm selling out and pandering to individuals and kind of ignoring those faithful five in the corner because I want that 5,000 over there, so to speak. But in terms of your content now, will you begin to be more open and more kind of reflective of your personal experience from this point on, or will you still work in that coded space?
I like writing in a coded way. Like that song, it wasn't deliberate. It just so happened that's how that particular song was
Right,
delivered. You know, I like the code. I like the art of writing. Some of my favorite writers, you don't even know what they're talking about,
right.
but I love the language.
Unless you live that experience and then you start
Right.
to see the parallels in
Um,
it.
and it's funny. Like from one of my favorite poets in Baltimore
Hmm.
is Olu Butterfly Wood,
Right,
you
right,
know.
right.
And I have like a lot of favorite poets, you know, but Olu is one of those poets that I don't believe majority of people get what she's saying. And I think that's okay. But she has such a presence and a swag, a flair about her that
Yeah.
she delivers like you should know. You
Hmm.
should know. And because she delivers in that fashion, that's how she's received, you
Right.
know. And if you read her work, that's when I feel like you're able to digest it, you know, because then you can read and make the connections and basically you can interpret it for how you want to interpret it. But I I love her art is a language, you know,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
like I reading poetry books. When I feel like I can understand a poem, and I'm not even, you know, like there are poets or rappers that write in that fashion that you can understand it right away without thinking twice, and there
Hmm.
are some that you have to decode what they're saying. My favorites have always been the ones you have to decode their language.
So yeah.
That's always been my favorite.
Well, that's why I'm falling in love with this new virtual platform because I've started hosting a number of virtual readings of plays and plays that I've directed before and people that I know who have written plays because the experience is different because people are forced to not pay attention to the spectacle of the stage. They may can see kind of your environment and what you may have on and maybe some slight animation in your stage presence and your delivery, but they're forced to listen to what you actually have to say. And even, I've done a play a couple times throughout the last 10 years, and everybody who has come to see it, this last time that we just did it as a virtual event, this was the first time they actually listened to the words and not
Wow.
paid attention to the blocking or who was on stage or what the set pieces were or where we were. They actually was able to hear the words and understand why I've been doing this play for 10 years and I've been so connected to it. So I'm hoping to see more artists use this platform to be heard versus
Mm.
just the scenic or the spectacle part of being an artist.
Which is weird that you say that because the way I perform and what I tell myself about being a performer is
Hmm.
that they need to watch you to listen.
Mm,
And
because you have a gift at that. You can keep us intrigued. So you tell a story with your facial expressions and your body. You're more of a physical performer.
right,
Not
but
everybody is blessed in that way.
I mean, I say that, but it's still even in connection with what you just said. I
Hmm.
still think that they still miss a lot of what I'm saying because they're watching me.
Right,
So what?
right.
So with what you're saying is that's got to be cool when you're received for you're received solely solely for the quality of of the dialogue or the lyrics You
Like
know.
the content itself is
Yes.
a different experience. I used to hate doing readings as an actor, and I would only do it for a grade or money. I would never like choose to do it, and it wasn't until I was really restricted like this where I had to actually listen to what a lot of people were saying on various shows, and I was like, I don't really like this,
Mm.
or I was more intrigued because now I'm listening to people and I'm really hearing what they're saying, and I'm not. You know, you brought up Olu Butterfly. We normally see the spectacle of what an Olu is. It's
Right.
always extra animated in real
Yes.
life, and we don't ever listen to what we're saying. For you, you're always the funny guy. So we're always watching you be funny, and we're missing some of the words. And I was listening to your album a couple of times today, your last project, and I was actually listening. And I was like, it took me back, and I remembered being in that circle of gentlemen with Tracy Jenkins at that time, and I was like, oh man, he was talking about this then. Like, wow, that's kind of a reflection of him sharing that experience that he spoke about then. So I was actually listening to you.
Mm.
I expect for you to be funny. So I'm
Oh,
listening for
really?
lines. I met you being funny. I think the first thing you ever said out your mouth was you told Styles that she was a figment of your imagination. And I laughed like the rest of that night. I'm laughing right now because I can remember you saying it to her. So I'm used to people being funny. I'm used to David being the more theatrical performer where he's
Mm.
putting on a show, and then to see you two together is such a unequal, in not terms of your talent, but you two are coming from two different places, bringing us like this magic, and you're still able to give it to us in a way where we're listening. I listen to poetry differently from certain people than I do from others because I know it's just performance for them. But
Right.
right now, I want artists to use this platform to connect and engage with audiences, so we're not just developing fans, but we're actually developing a following that really gets us and can dissect our work based on what they know to be there and not them just filling in the blanks with their emotion
Mm.
or their feeling towards us or their like our likability, but they're really actually listening to our work. And I've been kind of trolling the internet a lot for a lot of y'all work and a lot of artists that I know, and just trying to find other works that made me go back and listen to y'all other albums, listening to this one, and it really just gave me it validated what I'm personally doing in this moment, and it's just trying to get people to listen to the content.
Right.
Everything else we kind of put on pause for that. So when we get back to that, our work means that much more to them.
That
What
that
do
that. that.
you want people to get from you as an artist or your collaboration with Fifth Out? What do you want people to take away from what you all do?
One of the things David and I, we both say often is that we're just trying to provoke thought.
Mm,
Um, I don't. I'm not looking for. I'm not looking. I'm not writing, and even any stance I take is not designed for me to be agreed with.
okay.
But I'm okay with, okay, if you disagree, can we talk about it? If you had a different experience, can we talk about it? Um, we have a tendency to, and I'm guilty of this myself. So just to be transparent, we have a tendency to dismiss people because we didn't have that experience,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's a very common human trait where we'll dismiss something. Like me being a man, I've dismissed women, you know, based off of the fact that that can't have happened. I didn't
Right.
go through it, so who am I to say that it didn't happen? It can't have happened. Who am I?
Mhm.
You know, and at the same time, I've been dismissed because I'm a black man. You know,
Yeah.
so like we're constantly passing the buck in a certain fashion. I just want to provoke thought, and it's that simple. Like some people are like, yo, I'm here to educate and uplift and the whole nine, and not negating that. That's what your drive is. I want to, because I don't believe that I'm here. Not everyone's going to agree with me. Even if we go through the exact same thing, we can still have different viewpoints about it. But I'm good. I like conversation, as we're doing right now. I like the
Mhm.
sharing. I'm chatty like that. I like
Right.
I like this a lot. I do this with my friends. We talk. I like talking to people.
Mhm.
Um, and I like talking about stuff, whether we're arguing about hip hop music or we're arguing about politics or we're arguing about or we're debating on how one of my closest friends, he has no children, but whenever I have an issue with my son that I'm trying to work through, I call him. He
Mhm.
has no children. He has never raised a child from bottom to top. But not to
Right.
say he has never interacted with children, but I consider him to be a very sensible person. So I call him like, yo, this is what I'm going through. And there are times that he even challenges me. And I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, I never thought of it like that. And that right there, he provoked thought. He made me stop to at least think, consider.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to do with my art. I guess I speak to Dave in that aspect. Like we want to provoke thought. We want to be challenging, but we're not here to change the way you live. If you happen to see our point of view and it works for you, all right, let's roll. Because at the end of the day, that's all you can do.
Will we see that in like your upcoming? Could that possibly be a way that you can kind of present this project because it's a shorter project from you all? Would that be a possible way to kind of engage on this platform in terms of just starting those conversations um, with the audience, an active or present audience, virtually, of course? But could that possibly be a way?
Yeah. If you notice, before at least four of the songs, there's a
Hmm.
there's a film script skit.
Hmm.
Even that's very intentional.
Right.
That's very intentional uh, that we wanted before the song,
Hmm.
because those are the things that we either agree with or disagree with. We place right before the song to drive the song. I don't know how to deliver this album. This album is not a spoken word album per se, but it's not a hip hop album either. It's that fine line, And if we do deliver this album, we're delivering this album musically, with and probably with a DJ than a band. Um,
Hmm.
so trying to figure out how do you deliver a show, it's going to feel more like a hip hop show, but not
Right.
your rah rah hip hop show, more of your native tongue hip hop show.
But y'all
Um,
always find a way to infuse like everything into it, so it's still gonna be what it's gonna be. But
right, right.
are you consciously trying to keep those elements out of it, or
I,
are
I,
you?
don't- I, I don't know if we'll have a huge. I think in past shows we've done a lot of theater to tie the
Hmm.
show together. I don't know if this is this for this particular project we're going to do that. But the question is, when we didn't even get a chance to begin the conversation about what the show looks like because all this happened,
Hmm.
and we still haven't talked about it because we don't know when we're going to do the show now. Because actually, it's May right now, so the
Right.
show was supposed to actually happen by now. I think we were supposed to have done the show
Yeah.
by now if we were on our regular timeline.
Right.
Uh, I think that if we do the fun part is if we do an online show, we'll get to talk about each song before we do the song.
So you're looking for more of a unplugged performance and not really
It, it,
that.
it might it might fall into something like that, more of an
Okay.
unplugged feel. And I say unplugged with a DJ because we don't usually perform with a
Yeah.
DJ. This will
Yeah.
this will be a cool opportunity just to be a 1-2 punch with a DJ spinning the records, and we banter really well. David and I together, we banter real well before songs. We banter really well after songs.
Right.
This does have a more serious tone, but because it has a more serious tone, doesn't mean we can't enjoy the experience. So I get comfortable on stage when I find my pocket. And my pocket, first of all, is to make sure we smile.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that, that that's my initial pocket. I need us to smile, even if we're about to get real heavy and real serious. Let's smile first, and then we can gradually go through the journey of some hardship. I know this album is condensed and it's heavy. You know,
It really when I say I was listening to uh Sins of a Father, I really it took me back to that conversation that we had when we had that round table. And what was interesting about that moment, these were people that you see all throughout Baltimore in the various pockets of the creative scene, but we never, and I can honestly say, I never really reached out to you all unless we were in a space to say hi or hello or catch up or whatever. But it was interesting to see the various perspectives, and that was just a couple examples of what it is to be a black male artist in the city or in any city for that matter. But it's
Right.
interesting to just hear um, without an audience, without a a perspective. And Tracy is like the honorary dude anyway. Like so, it wasn't uncomfortable being in front of her, but and not even I had forgot that there were even cameras there for a minute. But just understanding being able to get to know people on a different level. And I try to do that with the show, but it's still limited because I'm not going out to have a brewski. I'm not really, and that's just my personality. But I'm really interested in just finding out more, and I'm loving how the arts is forcing artists to be a little bit more transparent
Right.
in their engagement, building their engagement with their audience. Is this and just the people they're performing in front of at large. Do you feel the pull to be more transparent or to expose more, or you still going to stay in that old school mantra of being an artist and keeping your private private?
Um, I guess like, again, I think I am. It just depends on actually for me personally. It just depends on how. For instance, you said that I'm the funny guy, you
Mhm.
know, which I'm aware that I project physically in that fashion. The
Right,
weirdest thing is the content of my lyrics are pretty not funny.
right,
You
right,
know, they're generally pretty dark, and I feel like if folks paid more attention, they'd realize they're very personal too. You
mhm,
know,
mhm,
um, but I, I think I'm revealing if you know me. If
right,
you know me,
right,
I'm revealing. If you don't know me, these are just lyrics that you just that might go with the flow. It might just be it might be the moment that you're engaged. But I don't know if I want to write any other way.
mhm.
I like something you said earlier in regards to just being able to. I want to be heard.
Okay,
I want to
okay.
be heard. There was a thing I was doing. This is funny. It's my only David Chappelle moment. Um, I used to do this thing on Facebook. This went on for maybe like 3 or 4 years. I used to do this thing called FU Thursdays, which I would say the whole. I don't know if I can curse on here or not, but
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I saw us do this thing called Fuck You Thursdays.
Mhm,
So every Thursday, I would just get online on Facebook. I'm like, fuck this, and I would have all these things that I've thought about. The content would be fuck certain things that I felt just on some bullshit. It'd be from funny, silly shit, surface things, or something that was, that was deep rooted in our culture, society, how we view the world. But I would do it every Thursday. This went on for years,
right, right.
and but it was just a thing I did every Thursday. So it was so much that if I woke up late on a Thursday, my inbox, people would be like, "Yo, when you gonna start Fuck You Thursday?" Because after I post, everyone else posts underneath me.
Mhm, mhm.
They getting off their chest too because on their page they just can't say fuck 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 fuck. I
Yeah,
don't I
yeah,
don't I
yeah.
don't give a shit. So I do whatever I want,
Mhm.
And one day I did a show in I want to say I was in Richmond. I want to say I was in Richmond, and I got off stage, and the guy was like, "Oh, you that fuck you guy," and
Remember.
that exact moment I stopped doing Fuck You Thursdays
Oh wow.
because I was like, and I say the David Chappelle moment was because at the time that they offered Chappelle $50 million,
Mhm.
they didn't notice the quality content of his show. They just saw, oh, we can make money off of people laughing,
Yeah, yeah,
and he was like, nah, y'all don't get it,
yeah.
and he pulled back.
So they didn't even see his content. It was just
No,
the reaction.
the reaction, and then they wanted to have control over the content, and they were going to fork him over 50 mil to take control off of something that, if you watch the Chappelle show, that joint is very well done.
Mhm.
Like it's
Mhm.
very clever. It's a very clever show. Even the
Right.
dumbest skits, you can tell have an underlying social commentary in there. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and they didn't get it. So they were gonna. So that, not only did they want to take over the show, they didn't get it, and then they were, and you know they were gonna water down the content.
Hmm.
They were gonna
To make
dilute it.
it safe, because it's about
Yes,
to cross over and stuff.
yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
and you know, after that, a lot of people was like, "Yo, what happened to Fuck You Thursday?" Even to this day, not just a week ago, someone hit me, was like, "Yo, let's do a online open mic and call it Fuck You Thursday." And I was like, "Nah, yo,
Hmm.
you know, like I don't want that to be, because even when I did those things, it was, people like to fuck you more than the content that I was addressing." And
Right.
I was like, nah, I don't want. I guess I'm one of those people. I won't just get on to get on. You know, I've met people that are,
Yeah.
yo, if you did more stuff about the streets, or if you did more stuff for the women, you know, then you would probably garner more attention. But it's like, that's just not me. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to do what I want to do the way I want to do it, and find my cult following within that.
I'm finding that is becoming this new norm of wanting everybody to succeed, but not realizing we're all individuals and we can possibly get and definitely get to the same outcome from different perspectives, and we don't always have to be this type of artist or this type of person or deliver this type of content. It's really a struggle being a black artist, because our field of success is like this narrow hallway that we all have to go down, and it's not room for all of us at the same time. So we have to, get in line with this person, or figure out what made them pop. Or and it's for me is it kind of caused me to move back. That's how I got into radio uh in the first place. I got tired of trying to be this person or that person, or I got tired of trying to be that, or try to
Right,
fit into somebody else's frame with my frame. Like it just wasn't. It's a turn off. It really is a turn off. So I understand what you're saying, and I respect it. Uh, honestly, like it. My will you so and you kind of moving forward. Even with this going on right now, what do you see yourself doing as an individual, and how do you keep yourself an individual when you're in a group with somebody?
um, well, I asked the last question first. Being with David, I lose the rule to be in a group, and I've been in groups.
Hmm.
I've been in groups. The rule of a group is you cannot be for self. You blur into a one. Dave and I do a great job of that blur, especially when it was his full time gig and my full time gig, just to perform for a living.
Hmm.
We lost self really well, and we know how to operate as a unit. Um, be it writing, be it duties of what we need to do when we're off stage, and we know what positions we play on stage.
Right.
Just being aware, and it was so fluid for us to move that way. But we're also great friends. Um, so that's easy. So when I do my solo stuff, when I do stuff with the band,
Hmm.
that is me without any mindfulness of anyone else. If that makes any sense. My content, I don't have to, like with Dave and I. There's a whole the mood is very different than what it is with my band. With my band, I can be chaotic. The sound can be chaotic. I can be experimental on a level that, because Dave and I are not the same person, and our styles not the same, and because of that, I do have to kind of tone it down to fit. And I know David can't be all super chill. He has to come up. So David comes up
Hmm.
as far as manner wise, not writing wise. David writes really well, but manner wise, he comes up, and I also have to kind of come down. We meet each other in the middle somewhere to deliver work. But then we both have solo projects. My band is my solo project. That gets to be all me chaotic. And I go all the way up. And people see me on stage with a top hat. I draw on my face. I take off my shirt. I wear suspenders. I can be the character that I think I am. You're the unleashed, full blown. You know. And then David and his solo stuff is very passionate. His album was called In Late Bloom, but the whole album is a lot of romance in it. There's a lot of storytelling about his personal life and what he goes through in his relationships as a married man, as a father, even his relationships prior to his marriage. You hear it weave within his lyrics and his song and his storytelling. Um, and even the way he performed that album in the manner is very unlike what we look like together. You know,
Right.
so I guess ultimately you have to know who you are as a person, and
Mm,
then who the unit is when you fuse together on some Dragon Ball Z fusion type thing. Um, you know, because that takes on its own identity. That's why you have to lose self, figure out what is the identity of the unit
right.
together, and then know who you are as an individual. So that answers the second question. First question, I'm writing. We finished this project, and I still have my bandmates. You know, I'm like, I need some music. I need some music to
Right.
write to, and I want to write more to their stuff because when I don't get music from them, I start writing to anything, and
Mm,
then I got to make their music fit these lyrics, as opposed to let me just write lyrics to the things you guys have. So I'm currently still writing. That my guitarist Nick is sending me music. My keyboardist Maurice Stinky Face, he's sending me music. We talk here and there, not as often, which is weird. I think I talked to my peoples more before the pandemic, and now all of a sudden I'm not as communicative now that it's pandemic, and it's not like I'm doing anything more. I'm actually doing less. But
well, it's that term. I think subconsciously that idea of social distancing got into some of our heads, and we didn't. I don't. For me, I know it didn't. I have to remember to pick up your phone and call somebody, or say something to somebody, text someone, like because you just got into that bubble. And for me, I've totally been quarantined, but you got to remember to reach out. I think a lot of people are. I don't think that's the right word for us to use. That social distancing. It should have been something else like physical distance or something.
and you know what? Language plays a huge part, and
Mhm.
that is true. Like I just because even just talking to us like that, I'm not as social. I don't talk to Maurice or Nick. I mean, we speak here and there, but I can say I've when before all this, I probably speak to everybody several times a week, maybe
Mhm.
at least once a week, but most
Yeah.
times more than once a week. I'd shoot a text like, "What's up?" We say something stupid. You know, we update each other on something happened
Because
in the
what are
news.
you gonna talk about? Like, how are you dealing with this? Like, it becomes the same conversation, man. When is this gonna be over? Like, you
Right,
almost don't want to hear people complaining or talking about it because I'm trying to limit how much of this information I let into my
right,
personal space. But yeah, I just think the wording was off for a lot of people because we took it literal
right.
versus the physical distancing
Aspect of it.
we needed to take. We have a couple more minutes left. I wanted to one ask you, what do you think this city would do without um, uh, like an artscape or our big season of events? What do you think? How would that affect our arts community without those bigger events that we kind of thrived on?
Well, when things supposedly get back to the new normal,
Hmm.
the art scene is still going to suffer.
Right.
We're not going to be ready. Like if Governor Hogan tomorrow says end of May, all right, we back to normal. The art scene is not going to be back to anywhere near normal till towards the end of this year
Right.
because
Right.
people will go to restaurants to eat. Yes, because food is a necessity.
Hmm.
Um, but I think they will be more apprehensive to attend an event where people are close spaced together. And, you know, even whether it's theater or whether it's a concert, people are too close together. So unless there's a situation where there are going to be circles on the ground where you can only stand and you can't be close to someone else, and that's your circle for the night, now you got to pay for your circles, which is actually a good idea.
Right.
You have to pay for your circles, like you have to pay for seating how your seating is done when you go to the
Hmm.
movies now. And maybe that might be the thing. I think it's going to take a moment to get back into the groove of things
Hmm.
for society, unless Beyonce does a concert. People will risk it for the real big names. They'll risk it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, But for the us artists who are local or regional, who are not superstars,
Mm,
I don't think society is it's going to take a while for society to slowly be ready to be in the mix of it, with using us.
yeah. Just the level of comfort that it's going to take for people to want to be, and our events are known to be like pets, like people
Right.
in there touching shoulders, like
Yes.
just that feeling. It's going to still feel weird. I know for me it will feel weird, even if I'm on a stage, looking down. But some certain of those new norms will definitely have to be put into place, even for that. In terms of this album, you say you're kind of trying to understand just the climate, so y'all can maybe do an extension to it,
We
or
will. We and by just all conversation. Like I said, we live different lifestyles. If if we feel like this was a good idea, and I say this is a good idea, we spent money to put the album together. We spent money in the studio. Spent money. Oh, let me shout out real quick. Jay Soul Black Sinatra did all the production on the album.
hmm
That's that's who did all the production, and we recorded at the lineup room with Brandon Lackey.
okay.
So those are the people that we patron to put this album out.
And I saw
And
Theo was doing a lot of the imagery, and
so
you had a feature on the album as well.
so
Oh,
Theo shot the music video for the title track for the album,
hmm
Black Body. So that's another thing we want to do. We really want to do a video for every song.
okay,
Financially, trying to figure if that's realistic, but we want to do a video for each song. It's 5 songs, really cool. Do a video, and for us, because there's no urgency, we're not like tied to a label. We're not superstars. We can pace
right,
out the videos because it's an album. You can, in my world, you can run an album for a year, year and a half, 2 years if you really, really got it like that. And I say that if you're patient enough. I feel like we've turned into such a factory line world where you put out an album and 4 weeks later it's old, and now you have to work on the next album.
and that's weird because outside of R&B and hip hop, no other genre of music works on that cycle. Gospel music, they'll put out an album and that plays for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and you thinking that they throwing out albums, but they've been living off that one
I
rock
agree.
and country. It's the same turn,
I
but
I,
hip hop
I
and
agree,
R&B has turned into this microwave system.
and that's what it is. So I feel like we can run this album. I have
Right.
we have old albums. If we do shows, we have to do an hour-long show. We just incorporate old material. We mix with the new material, and in the mix of that. So I feel like I just lost track of myself. Um, I lost track of myself. I have no idea what I was about to say now.
And this, I'm not even giving a suggestion, but I would love to see the two of you kind of do some more intimate conversational performances where we get to hear you all. Y'all talk a lot, but it's kind of y'all transition, how y'all learn how to transition from one piece of the show to the next piece of the show. Uh, but I personally would love to hear just how you all think in terms of being that unit and the conversation that would come from that. I think that would definitely help to kind of expand just the the album out over time as well. But we got
I I I I agree. People need it. I mean, it's a story. Everything's about the story of the artist, what makes
mhm
the artist, and then that makes people fall into the music. So I
mhm
definitely agree with you. I definitely agree. And unplugged, intimate setting with circles on the ground for everybody to stand in their own particular
or
circle that
bubbles,
they,
bubbles. We could
that they
just get
pay
bubbles.
for.
Just get bubbles. Everybody buy rent a bubble for a day.
That would be. You know what? If I could figure out how to make that work, and if I had the finances to back that up, that would be the first show that happens right after all this blows over.
A bubble show. I what was that? Erica Badu. She was in the bubble performing. Like if everybody just had a bubble, we just walking around. I see everybody walking around like a park, like Drill Park in bubbles,
That would be
just
cool.
rocking out.
It'd be cool, but it's also scary that we're about to embark in a space that
Yeah.
society now we're about to become socially and physically distant.
Or just the mere everybody walking around with masks on. It still feels weird to me.
I agree.
Like I gotta prepare myself to go out the house, and I gotta put on my gear, and it. And we used to look at Asians like you're weird. Like what's your
Right.
problem? And now this is our everyday life now.
Now we understand.
Yeah, now we get it. We
So we're only able to get it because we're experiencing it
right, right. Which is sad because we could have had that conversation with them then
a
and
long time
probably
ago.
would have started abusing them ourselves then. But real quick, where can we find the music? And let everybody know where to find you all on social media. That whole rat race.
The Fifth L, Black Body's name of the album. The group's
Hmm.
called The Fifth L, 5THL, The Fifth L. You can stream and download on any digital distribution site
Hmm.
platform. You can go to where you can find us on Facebook under The Fifth L. You can find us on Instagram under The Fifth L. We only do Instagram and Facebook. I don't have Twitter. Don't have TikTok. Don't have all those other ones. I'm old, and
I think you could thrive on TikTok. I think
I'm
that's
not good with
one thing.
that video thing where you do this. I'm not good at that. Like I can't do it. Like I have to force myself to do that, and then the amount it takes for me to do, I can't do it. Like
But
I
what else
wish
you doing right now, sir? What else? What else you doing right now?
it's a personality thing. Like
Right.
when I see children do it, I get it. When I see adults do it, I'm like, but so I'm old. Like I'm older than what people think I am. So I'm old. So I feel like that's all tied to my age. That
Hmm.
I there's a maturity in me that is not. There's a maturity in me that won't let me do it. There you go.
Right. Right. Well,
Um,
I did have one more question before you go further. How has it been being a homeschooler in his
I
home?
well, my son's 16, so he's on autopilot. I just
Okay.
have to make sure, and his school, they definitely all about the online learning. He has class all day,
Okay.
from 9 to 3.
Mhm.
So he's in the trenches and he has projects due. He's fine. My nephews this week, all my nephews been staying with me, so it's just a party. It's an army of boys at the crib, and and the smell of musk boys, sweaty
Oh.
boys,
Oh.
you know,
Okay.
is in the air. um, so everyone's just doing their work, and that's the rule. Like you wake up in the morning, get your work done for the day, your schoolwork done for the day. Everyone there is a specialist in something. One of my
Okay.
nephews is amazing at math. My son's great at reading, at writing. So they all find ways to help each other to get things done. And then
Okay.
once work is done for the day, everybody's allowed to chill, kick back, and do whatever they want to do.
That's awesome. So I normally end the conversation with what advice would you give to your 17-year-old self, and what question would you ask to your 100-year-old self?
Oh snap! 17-year-old self advice. Um, don't dismiss things just because you haven't done them yet.
Mm,
I was great at dismissing things in my earlier life, and there's some of the things I do now that I like. Man, if I had started doing this earlier, I'd probably be
mm.
further right now. My 100-year self, what would I ask? Ugh,
What question would you ask?
ugh. Um, was it all worth it?
Was it all worth it?
Was it all worth it? And that would probably be an array of things. Yeah, and tied to some of the things I'm quick to dismiss some things, and I want to know if I'll get to a point where I'll look at myself like, yo, family, you kind of wasted those moments.
Now, I never asked this question, but you would be the person that I would probably ask for the first time. What would your 100-year-old self respond to in that question?
I don't
Well,
know.
how would they respond? How do you think they will? How do you think your 100-year-old self would respond?
I could only answer that based off of who I am right now, which then I would probably say, yo, no regrets, son. Keep it real, son. Yo, you did it, son. You did it the way it's supposed to be
Right.
done. You know.
Totally Febby.
Yeah, I don't. I've enjoyed. It's funny. Probably till my mid 30s is when I started to enjoy being me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that became that's tied to just a lot of like family is okay. You know, it's some of the things that I would always treat like it's not okay. Started talking about that family is okay. So
Right.
I'm hoping as I get older, I also let go of some more things because I held on for a lot. I held on to a lot of things for so long, and if you can't see it in my walk, but it's definitely there.
So I'm giving everybody that homework to just go through, and I'm really gonna go back and like listen from a different perspective because I do, and I've known you two to be characters in your own work, but I want to actually listen to it. So now that's my homework to myself, and what I'm challenging other people to do is just listen and just hear what you didn't always listen for in the past. So I'm gonna go by and I might have a couple questions for you. I might shoot you a couple questions like what the fuck is you talking about right now? I
I'm
didn't
I'm
just
I'm I'm totally fine with that. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate that very much.
I appreciate you, man. And this has been the Artist Exchange. Next up is the Cocktail Social with Mr. Blue Waters. And after that, we have It Is What It Is radio show. Real quick, this Sunday, we're doing our fourth virtual performance, and that's an August Wilson tribute. Shout out to
Yeah.
Femi and David for including. First of all, I don't ever listen to stuff in the right order. Like I
Oh, you
just
you
go
shuffle.
to where yeah, I just automatically shuffle, and that number two became number one, and that just threw me off only because everything lines up. Like when you thinking, should I be doing this right now? You know, August Wilson just celebrated his birth. We celebrated August Wilson's birthday on the 27th of April.
Right.
That was kind of the impetus for me doing the. I wanted to connect a bunch of black men from across the United States and do a virtual experience. And who else to do that with is August Wilson. And that one scene is kind of, I don't have to love you.
Oh,
That whole scene
uh,
in Fences, it
you,
takes
you
me
you
back.
don't understand how that joint hits my heart when I hear that. Like first of all, that whole play is freaking
Mhm.
stupid,
Is August
amazing.
Wilson an influence for you or somebody that you, in
I
terms of being a literary influence?
I would say this: if Roz doesn't work for the for center stage anymore,
Mm.
but whenever there was an August Wilson play at center stage,
We
Ro-
can't get in trouble no more by saying this.
Roz hook a
Oh,
brother up. I'll come through, watch,
Ron.
and then after that play, the type of discussion. Because sometimes I would go by myself, and then I need
Mhm.
to talk to somebody after the play. I
Right,
just need to talk
right.
to somebody. But if I go with someone, the conversations I can have with them after the play,
Mm.
like once again, the level of depth. I love depth. I love to watch things or experience things that inspire, that provoke thought and inspire great conversation.
But can you think of any other black playwright that focused on the many different colors of a black man? And he wrote plenty of he had plenty of strong women characters,
Yes.
but I can't think off the top of my head of a playwright that specifically wrote for the nature of a man and all of our different aspects and the
Right.
different types of who we are.
I can't. I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head, but if they exist, they don't exist. They don't
Right.
stand out. They don't stand out in the way that August Wilson's
That's consistent.
writing
Mhm.
and you said and that's really what it's about. He was just so
Mhm.
consistent in offering that. It was just so consistent.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah. You know what? Man, I don't know. I get excited. August Wilson is a playwright, and his plays have, and like I said, my experience with August Wilson all tied into me meeting Roz, because
Oh,
prior to that I wasn't aware of him. Like
right. Right.
I knew the name, but I wasn't aware of him because I started to
Mhm.
enjoy plays because of because of that. And the bad part is now all plays measure up.
No, you can't even. That's why when people call him a black playwright, I can't even. Or he's the black Shakespeare. I can't even accept that. I can't even begin to because this man wrote a play for every decade in the 20th century, and
Hmm.
they were all very distinctive. Yet he stayed true to his Pittsburgh roots, to his male perspective, to his male point of view, to the object, which was the male way of life or the many different facets. And I can't think of another man. I grew up with in white schools and we did musicals, Damn Yankees. It wasn't until I got to college and I met Professor Courts, and I,
Hmm.
of course, being in Coumba, getting them hooked up tickets, being able to see, the work and hear about this man, I felt like I missed a big portion of my life not knowing who he was, always wanting to be an actor and not understanding who this man was. But it definitely, when I heard number two, that that scene alone, I think every young black man with a father or who did not have a father, that
It's
scene does something
so
to us
strong. It's so
every
strong.
single time.
That joint's so strong. And
It
and,
is.
and it's another thing, you don't have to agree with it. Because there's
Mhm.
aspects of that I don't agree with. But I felt it. I felt it.
Well, and that's that one character, and I think he has a couple characters like that, but that one character forces you to hate him, but you want to love him, especially to ones of us who didn't have a father or who
Right.
didn't have the best father. Like
Right.
you want our instinct is to love that person, but our experience has shown us I can't stand you. But that one thing I swear, I have that movie on my Amazon account, and I watched that one scene over and over as an
It's
actor, as a young man, as a person who wanted to say certain things to my father and never did. Like Ed, I played that scene over and over. So for y'all to get that clip, I was like, oh, this gonna be. Let me
we
call
we
him.
were looking for something, but once again, that clip represents us as children and represents
Uh
us
huh.
as fathers.
Yes.
Because that whole
Yes.
song was about us being fathers,
Yep.
dealing with father issues while having children. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that clip is it's it. You know what? I feel like black schools have done themselves a disservice
Mhm. Mhm.
for
Mhm.
not having for that theater department. It should be standard for that theater department to do
Not even the
nothing.
theater department, the literal, the English department.
Even that, but because even in
Mhm.
high school, my last years of high school, I was in a theater club with Miss Chambers at Walbrook. Miss
Mhm.
Chambers represent. I love Miss Chambers.
Okay.
But we did a lot of Shakespeare. We did a
Yeah.
lot of Shakespeare. But I wish that we had embarked on some August Wilson back then. And once again, I might have developed thinking. My thinking might have developed earlier
Right.
based off of those dialogues and those experiences and those
Mhm.
interactions. You know, but not to say that even the Shakespeare, there's an aspect that I pulled from that because I wasn't serious about it. It was just a class to take that I knew I could get an A in.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm expressive, so it was
But
easy.
culturally, it would have connected a lot of dots that a lot of us as young black men had.
Yes, and those are the things that were missing. Um,
Mhm.
that need to be implemented. Like recognize that not all schools are the same.
Mm.
Not all schools are the same. And if we are going to do Shakespeare over here in these urban environments, then how about the white environments? They do August Wilson plays
I've
and
got
have them
look,
conversations.
as a teaching artist, the first thing I do at the beginning of the year is put all the black faces up on the board. I'm kicking myself because I thought we were going back to school, and I have the whole book of all his monologues, and I didn't bring it with me, and I'm
Mm,
pissed because I had to go back online and get all of them to do this. But it really did. His work really spoke to me because everything that I would have wanted to say to a father that was never there is what I hear going through all of his monologues, the
I,
conversation.
I,
And
I,
that one play just
it hits right here, like it hits
yeah.
right here, and I
So
understand.
I'm telling you, as a theater thespian, I connected with your this project strongly through number two. And
I,
then it just opened up everything else for me.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you
Appreciate
very much.
you, man. Any other time? At one point I'm gonna have you and David together. I've interviewed him, I've interviewed you, but at one point I'm gonna bring y'all on together and just see so people can see that David is really the cut up.
Oh,
And
without a doubt, without a doubt.
people to see that in this world and not put everything on my man Fibby.
Exactly, yo. I've been misrepresented for years, yo.
But thank you, man. This has been the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Like I said, next up, Cocktail Socials Talk Show with Blue Waters and his posse. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Peace out. Peace out. Peace out.
Peace.
I think you just click the leave button and
All right.
it'll just take you out.
I'll do it right now.